What inspired you to enter this business?
Okay, so in 2008, I was head of wealth management for Mercer Investment Consulting. And I brought Mercer to India, so more than 10 years ago now. And I realized that there weren't many avenues for me to reach the B2B players in the market. So I had to go via the sort of retail media, so the Economic Times and Mint and Business Standard and so on, to be able to reach everyone. So back then, I thought it was just a quirk of the market. But now, like I said, more than 10 years later, I realize that that is still an issue. Even today, even though I no longer work for Mercer, even though I no longer work in the main industry, I get many people calling me up asking me for either when they're looking to hire people or they're looking for example, PMS providers and new technology providers to get introductions to private banks and so on. So basically, I realized that the B2B networking opportunity is still something that has not been addressed. So I decided that rather than waiting for someone else to do it, let me try and do this myself. That's what
is your core business?
So my core business is research-led content. So my background is as a research analyst and consultant. For the last sort of 20 odd years, I've been researching mutual funds and asset classes and then adapting that to provide customized solutions to institutional investors. That's what I used to do at Mercer and the company before that. Today, in this business, so Money Management India is a content-led network. So I will do research on any kind of funds. So I'm starting with alternative funds, then PMS, and then mutual funds. But instead of giving a rating, I would give the research in its component parts. I believe the research components are basic data, so information about performance and portfolios and features of the funds. The second component is a fund manager interview. That's what I will focus on. And the third component is operational due diligence, which at the moment I am leaving out. That's for institutional investors to decide amongst themselves. But right now I'm focusing on the fund manager interview. And the data part, I can take a feed from the many players that are already in the market. So the idea is that these two things put together will be available on our site, as well as we will write more kind of journalistic, deep dive research type pieces on different asset classes. So, for example, if you want to invest in mutual funds, you have to go to the AMFI site for data. If you want to invest in private equity funds, you may have to go to IVCA. If you want to invest in venture funds, again, there. If you want to invest in infrastructure, you have to go looking somewhere else. If you want to invest in REITs, you have to go somewhere else. I intend to collate all of that on my site, not necessarily doing original research, but linking to whatever is out there by major consulting firms and major research organizations, and then pulling it all together, putting kind of an overview so that the reader can understand what's going on in one go. Rather than having to go to multiple 20-odd sites, they can come to my site and understand what's going on in every asset class. So there are two. So summing up, there are two components to my site. One is research on the asset class itself, which will be freely available for now. And then the second part is a directory of all the major funds available in India and interviews with their fund managers, and then link to a data source.
How would you like to define your strength?
How would I like to define what?
Your unique strength.
Right. My background is probably my unique strength, given that I have spent time in the research industry in Australia. Australia is one of the largest asset management markets in the world, the third largest, I believe, which for its size seems strange, but that is the case. So there is a whole lot of institutional processes that the Australian market goes through. I had the fortunate experience of working with the best firm and then the biggest firm. So I've got insight to how that process works. I can bring that to India. I also, over the last 10 years, have built a pretty good network. So I've been writing the last 3-4 years on LinkedIn, and I have managed to get voted top voice and power profile for a few years. And that has led to me building a pretty good network and quite a few followers on LinkedIn. That means that I have a head start in being able to reach the whole market, not just in India, but more importantly, when I, for example, do research on an asset class or say private equity or venture capital, and then profile the fund managers in these asset classes, I can also reach all the major institutional investors around the world, and also family offices and smaller investors. So the idea is to have network, but with credibility. So anyone sitting somewhere else in the world has should be comforted by the fact that I used to work at Mercer. I have a chartered financial analyst charter. I do understand what they are looking for. So I have their sensibility, and yet I'm on the ground, and I've also built a network in India so I can connect the two markets.
So how one can utilize your services?
Right now, I am reaching out to alternative investment funds, so private equity, venture capital, to start with, and then I will reach out to real estate as well. If you can give me an interview, an open-ended interview where I can bring a small camera, audio, and record your interview, you can say whatever you want about your unique selling proposition, so your USP being the funds, the firms. I can make that library available to the whole market around the world. So just by agreeing to an interview with me, we can build the whole case for investing in India together.
How is the feedback of your client?
So far, well, I don't have clients per se. I have teamed up with IVCA, so they're a client of mine. I went to them and I obviously showcased what I am trying to do. They have been very good about it, and they've let me interview all the fund managers and their speakers at the various IBCA conferences the last two years. So I've started to build a pretty decent library, and they've paid me for it as well. I'm now reaching out to other players, but mostly now I will start reaching out directly to the funds.
But do you leave the things at the interview part, or do you evaluate also?
I don't want to evaluate just now, partly because I'm only one analyst here. So at this point, I don't want to evaluate. I don't think I'll ever evaluate. I want to leave it to the investors to evaluate. But if there are HNI clients that want my opinion, I can give it to them privately. I will not publish any evaluations or ratings.
So is that the market you are looking for growth?
Say again?
Is that the market you are looking for growth?
No, to start with, I will, actually, yes. So I have got a conversation going on with a private bank where I could provide these sort of evaluations to them. But primarily, I'm looking to just cover the Indian market. I believe in the next few years, that globally, the biggest markets are the US, obviously, China, and India. So the whole world will be investing more in these three markets. I am sitting in India, so what I want to do is be ready for all these people coming into India investing. So I will simply focus on building that library so that their first port of call is my site. So I will focus on just that, and I will focus on marketing my portal to overseas investors. So that would be a growth opportunity for me, more sustainable. In the meantime, if smaller local family offices and HNIs want to come to me for advice, more than happy to give it to them, but that's just more bread and butter sort of cash flow for now.
What is your long-term view on the market?
As I said, I think the opportunity for India is huge. It's still relatively untapped. So far, the money that we've got comes from emerging market funds or global funds, and it comes in line with our weight in the index. But I think that is going to go up significantly, both in debt and in equity. So I think long term, there will be a lot more investable assets coming into India. So I think India's future is relatively brighter than most of the places in the world. I do think that the local market has not tapped that opportunity very well, but that's how that's become an opportunity for me.
So in one way, what your approach is in guiding to invest in funds or direct equity?
Funds, only funds. And I'm starting with alternatives. So not even mutual funds. So for example, if you are a small pension fund in Australia or in the US or in Canada or wherever, you're not quite a sovereign wealth fund. You can't fly all the way to India. Even if you did, you just do fly in, fly out. You're not big enough to set up an office here. So how do you evaluate opportunities in India? That's what I'm offering. So I will build a library and a network of all the investment opportunities in India, or through funds. That's my expertise.
Do you also make tailor-made packages?
Tailor-made what?
Packages for your funds requirement.
I have done that, but I don't want to do that too often. I will keep doing that right now because of cash flow. Until I build my full library, I'm happy to do that for now. I've done that.
Any other important point you may like to share?
So the biggest point I wanted to make is the fact that the information flow at the direct equity level is well regulated by SEBI and regulators around the world. So there is a very established way of working, right? So management, when they give interviews, they give to the whole market. Inside information is well understood. The problem with the funds market is this whole process is not there. So that's the sort of genesis for my writing that finance, the information has to flow freely. Why are fund managers giving interviews only to select large players, and the smaller pension funds and institutional investors are not even getting access to it? So I am trying to fill that gap in the market. There will be more opportunities, things like environmental, social, and governance factors that they will want to focus on. Again, it's something that I have expertise in and I can provide information on. So I believe that there's many gaps in the market, and I'm well placed to take advantage of them. For now, I'm starting very small, but if it picks up, or when it picks up, I hopefully should become a valuable source in the market.
Are you allowed the critical questions to ask the fund manager, or only goody questions you have to ask?
The thing is that it doesn't matter what I ask. Say, for example, I ask an open-ended question, as you said, a goody question about what is your investment philosophy. Say I ask that to a venture capital fund. Okay? And I can ask some very basic, okay, you've invested here, you've invested there. What was your rationale behind this? Whatever they answer is being recorded on video and audio. So even if they don't answer the question well, they might think that they've got away with it, but frankly, the video will be available as is to the whole world. And the idea is that it will be stored alongside their future interviews. I'm also going and scanning everywhere on the media universe that they've given interviews. So by putting them side to side, any analyst sitting anywhere in the world can evaluate that. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if they only give goody answers. The analysts can judge themselves on whether that answer was good or not. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter.
So your role is that of a service provider?
Of interviews. The evaluation I will keep private.
More than interview. Content. I'll say it is content.
Yes, it's content. So interviews, and then obviously with my expertise, I am drawing the thread and providing an interview. Providing research-based content. So, for example, say I go and interview 20 venture capital funds. Okay, the interviews will be available as is in a library form, video, audio, written, whatever. Then I will write my piece on the venture capital industry by threading together the whole 20 interviews. That will be my value add. So it will be both. It will be the interview library as well as research-based deep dives into an asset class.
So you play dual role of analyst and as well as interviewer.
Correct.
To bring the truth and the valuable information for the funds all across the world.
Correct. I hope so. So the only thing I won't do is I won't give a rating, because to give a rating, you need a much larger organization and you need to have many more analysts. You need to have liability coverage. You need to have lots of sort of financial strength, which I leave to the likes of Morningstar for funds and Mercer. Mercer, by the way, has re-entered the Indian market. So I leave the rating part to them, but I will provide the gap in the market so that even small players can form their own views, evaluation, and ratings.
Now adding one point more, I mean, say which fund managers are moving out of which stock and entering which stock. Whether that can be information source of your website can be a source for that.
I don't want to collect that, not stock level. Okay, so you're talking about mutual funds, or you're talking about alternative funds?
Both funds.
See, there are different levels, right? So in the mutual fund space, that information is available quite widely. So if you go to any site, you go to Morningstar, you go to Iris, you go to Value Research, all this information is available.
The idea is to know the reasoning for that, whether they can.
That's the thing. That's what I will focus on, reasoning. But I want to focus on more medium to long term. I don't want to go and ask them every single month, why did you do something? Every once a year or twice a year is when I want to go to them and ask them what was the rationale of why you did something, and what is your more medium to long term outlook. Every time I ask them, what is your medium to long term outlook, and I store that interview in a library form, then any analyst can look back what was the interview that he gave 3 years ago and what is he saying now. So for example, even someone like a Parag Parekh, I interviewed 5 years ago. Today I can make that interview available and you can compare that to what is being done in his AMC right now. Same thing with, you name it, all the mutual fund managers, whether it's Naren, Prashant, whoever. That's in the mutual fund space. I don't want to get into the short-term thing because I think selecting mutual funds is hard enough already. There is already not enough information available. If you keep focusing on the short term, you will only increase your own turnover. If you focus on the long term and you buy a mutual fund and you forget about it and put it away for 5 years, that should be the way to do it. That's the whole point of having a mutual fund. So that's what you should be focusing on. And if you think that that person hasn't done a good job, and there I can give my opinions. If you think the fund manager hasn't done a good job, then please go and buy a passive fund on ETF. You're much better served doing that. So over time, these patterns will become clearer. But the first step is simply indexing all the interviews they've ever given. So that's the process. I'm in fact in the process of hiring interns right now who will help me scan publicly available information already and make up a library. So that work is already starting straight away.
One question is coming to my mind that recent past, the few funds had invested in auto sector where they were not supposed to, or some they out of limits they went and they invested. So have you ever happened to come across and ask such type of questions?
I haven't focused on those yet. But the good thing is that, okay, the other thing I forgot to mention. So first step is build the library. Second step is to do these deep dives. third step is my site. If you go to the site, you will see that the directory and the forum is only available after a login. And the logins are freely available. There's no charge, but they're only available to people in the finance industry. So when you apply, I need to see your company email address or your LinkedIn profile. Only if I know you from the finance field will I let you in. And then, it's a user-generated forum. So people can comment on various funds and on each other's articles. So it becomes an industry forum. So instead of me going and judging everything, whether people have reached their limits or not, doesn't matter. I can simply scan what other people have already written, whether it's on Twitter or whether it's on another website, and simply link to it. So my job, my intern or my junior analyst will simply focus on what is already publicly available. Let other people evaluate.
Can you give any example where your tracking has helped you to bringing the valuable information?
At the moment I'm a startup, and obviously I have done this before. In Australia, I have set up sites like this twice before. Once in a small company called Van Eyck and once at Mercer. So I do have experience in doing this. Obviously they were larger companies, but in terms of what I'm trying to do is, yes, I am evaluating. I'm obviously qualified to do that, but more importantly, I'm allowing the industry to comment on each other's work. So right now, for example, if you are a advisor or a family office or a private bank, your research is only being sent out to your clients. At the moment, your peers are not evaluating your research. The only thing we see is what interviews or comments people make in the public domain. What I will do is go and pick up any reports I can from your website and put it all in one place, so that somebody else can start evaluating it. Another example that I see is that, everyone got hurt by the debt crisis set up by IFS and Yes Bank. But that's not true. There are some mutual funds that were able to avoid it. And interestingly, my own personal portfolio was in those mutual funds only. Was it just luck? Was it coincidence? No, I don't think so. I think it's the fact that back in the Mercer days, our team did a proper evaluation looking at the investment philosophy, and I sort of made my portfolio accordingly. I think that fund research, whether it's at the mutual fund level, whether it's the PMS level, whether it's the alternative investment fund level, that is not being done currently in India. So by making this portal available, I am allowing anyone, if you have a view on any fund, you can come and put a comment about that fund onto my platform so that other people can benefit. So it's a imagine FinTwit, financial community on Twitter, but this time rather than making one-line comments, you're making detailed articles, coherent, well argued case for why you believe a fund manager is doing a good job or not doing a good job.
I hope I am not repeating, but there is a lot of flexibility in the investment philosophy and how that is being implemented.
A very good observation. So, for example, in a way, it's good because, two different things. One is asking open-ended question to someone, what is your investment philosophy? Okay. And yes, they may say something very, very arbitrary, but then we are going to go back every year and ask them the same question and then compare that with what they have done in the public domain. And not just me, I will make it open to anyone. So if your investment philosophy is that I look at quality companies, I will ask you the question, okay, how do you define quality? You may say, okay, the return on equity over the last 5 years, 10 years has to be good. Okay. by now making your portfolios available, I will let it be open for someone else to comment. Acha, but this so-and-so fund manager says he will focus on high quality being defined by high ROE, but he has bought this stock or that stock or this sector or that sector, which doesn't look like it is meeting his own criteria. So I'm turning the whole community to being watchdogs and analysts.
So your one of the approaches is of onion peeling till you come to the crux.
Say again?
Your one approach is that of onion peeling till you come to the crux of the issue.
Yeah. So let them asking open-ended questions, because see, if I start becoming too confrontational in the interview itself, then they will not give me an interview.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is to have an open-ended interview, let them say what they want to say, and over time, the pattern will emerge on its own. So what this business will require is a bit of patience.
Actually, in a way, you are representative of the fund community.
Exactly. I am the fund community. I am providing the fund community to talk to each other. Yes, I'm a platform. That's why I'm calling it money management. So that's a money management industry, which is basically asset management and wealth management.
So your role
India.
Is of impartial person bringing.
I am a neutral platform. Okay, I am not going to make a judgment call. I'm not giving ratings. I am simply providing the space for people to talk about each other.
It's about exploration.
Yes.
And bringing trying to bring the questions in the mind of investment community which they can't ask directly.
Yes. And I'm a CFA. There's a whole big CFA community. Did you know that there's 5,000 qualified chartered financial analysts, CFAs in India right now? All of them are well qualified to make these observations. Some of them want jobs. Some of them want visibility. How do they get visibility? Again, I can give them a platform for them to go and make observations. You understood? So I'm providing, it's like a social media network. It's a professional community network. So and we're only talking about funds.
What is the biggest satisfaction you get out of all this?
I love it. This is where the passion comes from. What I said in that original article, I think finance is very important. Okay, my father wanted me to become a doctor, and I chose to not become a doctor but become a financial analyst. I believe finance plays a vital role in allocating capital to the industries that need it. Whether it's fintech, whether it's medicine, whether it's infrastructure, whatever it is, okay, for the whole world to function. To me, this is the nervous system. So information has to flow. At the moment, it's not flowing because there is no public portal where things are becoming quicker to analyze. At the moment, the analysis evaluation is too slow. It's behind closed doors. It is now not out in the public domain, in the fund level. And the fund level is even more important than the stock level. See, the more the investors buy funds and not buy stocks directly, the more a retail person, say my money, say I put into a mutual fund. So today, instead of buying direct stocks, I'm investing via the mutual fund. What is the mutual fund? The mutual fund then becomes an institutional shareholder of a company. Okay, so now I'm relying on my fund manager to decide whether what is going on in a Tata company or an Infosys or a Reliance or any of these stocks is right or not. But yet the fund themselves is not being evaluated correctly today. It's not happening in the public way. Therefore, that I believe is a weak link in the chain of capitalism. It's the weakest link. So we are blindly putting money into mutual funds, especially since this mutual fund Sahi campaign has started, SIP has started. Everyone is blindly putting money into mutual funds, but not enough people are evaluating the mutual funds in a public way, in a coherent way.
But would you like to interview the funds of the fund manager also or not?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I will interview the fund managers. That's what I'm doing, no? That is the basis.
There are certain funds out there which invest in other funds.
I'll interview all of them. So the question is, who will give me the interview? So now I'm starting with alternative investment funds where there are no interviews available, which is why when you, so at the moment I've not collated them, but I have a Vimeo channel. I've already got some 30, 40 interviews. On my site, they will slowly show up as soon as my team starts. In the next few weeks, you will start seeing these interviews all lined up. All the top venture funds and PE funds will be interviewed. And then slowly.
Which are your best interviews?
At the moment, I can't say best. I mean, these are all open-ended interviews. When you watch the interview, at the moment, you may say, "Acha, kuch to hua," like there's no major insight. But wait and watch. Once I start lining up all the interviews side by side, then you can evaluate whether their story is consistent. Then when I take the data feed and put it also on the page, then you will evaluate, acha, what they're saying and what they're doing, is it the same thing? So at the moment, it will take me a good year for all this to be lined up. Okay, the next 12 months will be, which is why I'm saying for the next 12 months, I'm willing to do consulting projects. But long term, when every bit of information that I want is lined up on the site, then the power of this will become clear.
So in short, you are providing a service to the mutual fund industry, both ways. As far as investment community is concerned, you are actually a medium of communicators and the people who are looking for the information.
Exactly. And I feel passionate about it. And it's low cost. So at the moment, I'm not taking funding. I have bootstrapped it. It's very low cost operation. It's simply, in fact, I'm switching to, instead of hiring a camera person also, I'm switching to me interviewing on the phone, on my phone. So I will make it very, very low cost so that I can run it for a very, very long time without any external funds. So even if I get no sponsors, even if I get no clients, I will still continue to run this. Because I believe there will be people who will want this information.
You see, people need the information, but they know the authenticity they want to guarantee first, because that is where their money, hard money is going.
But the thing is that every fund manager, whether it's mutual fund, whether it's alternative funds, they all give interviews. They give it to someone. So long as that interview is available publicly somewhere, whether it's on the CNBC site or Money Control site or ET site or somewhere, I will go and find it and I will index it. So the power that I am adding is in the curation of the information that is there. When there are gaps, that's when I will request an original interview on the condition that I will ask you all the goody-goody questions, but the interview will be available publicly.
It's a huge task you have undertaken. Very useful, very important, very much needed.
I think so. I think so, and I'm passionate about it. I've spent 25 years in the industry, and I feel after 25 years, I mean, mind you, obviously what I'm doing already exists, not in this form, but in some form in other markets. India, in the last 12 years, I've been watching, and I've been saying for 12 years, ki ye chahiye, this is needed, and nobody has done it. So in the end, I've stepped in and do it myself. Hopefully, other people, bright people, will join me in this, and it becomes a community platform. I will be most happy to make this a not-for-profit available to the whole industry, and many people can contribute.
That's nice talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to seeing the interview, and hopefully we can keep talking. Maybe in 6 months' time we can do a follow-up to see where the progress is at.
Yeah, maybe I can come out with some suggestions and.
Yes, please, please start looking at the site. At the moment, it's very. Actually, wait 2-3 weeks. Once my team puts up all the 30-40 interviews, then it will look much better. So in about a month's time, I will announce it. At the moment, I've not even announced it on LinkedIn. When I announce it, then hopefully I will welcome any feedback.